going on in the city today, so I really appreciate you all taking the time to come here. Um, we didn't intend to be competing. We thought we planned early enough so that there wouldn't be any conflict, but that didn't work out that way. So even though we're small in numbers today, we're full of information to share with you all today, and hope that you get something out of today's session. For lunch today, we're going to have a taco bar that is going to be prepared and served to us by All About You Catering in the back. They did our last event, and they'll be doing our event really well. So I want to thank them in advance. So a couple of things we're going to do today. We're going to a community project plan, right? And so if you were here the last time, we talked about capacity building, right? And about how we as citizens of the community can take the opportunity to do projects on our own, right? We can go after money, we can organize, we can make determinations about how we want to move the city forward, right? And it's not anything about trying to challenge the establishment, trying to challenge the government or anything like that. And in the best case scenario, it would be a partnership, right? But the point is, we as folks here in the city have more power than we think, right? And we have more of an ability to get things done than we think. So our goal with the capacity planning piece is to teach us, because I'm included, I live here too, right? Is to teach us how to go about those things that we think are important, how to organize, plan, and then execute. So today we're going to accomplish two things, right? The first thing we're going to accomplish is, well, it's not the first thing we're going to do. So, but what we're going to accomplish is we're going to talk about something that we think is important, that we want to see happen in the city. And then we're going to go about the process of doing it. We're going to pick a project. And then, right, that's going to be the second part of the session. We'll talk more about that after lunch. The first part of the session is something that we're excited about. We've established a partnership with SCORE Cleveland, and there's some representatives from SCORE here today. SCORE people, please raise your hand, stand up. And the partnership with SCORE is going to give us an opportunity to provide real business mentorship to folks who are looking to start businesses or anywhere for that matter, right? But we're in East Cleveland, so we're gonna kind of focus it on East Cleveland, but this knowledge is transferred, right? So, but our goal, our hope and our goal is that you take this knowledge and you put it to use here in this community, right? And you use it to help make this community thrive. So we're going to start a 5-part session with SCORE around business development and entrepreneurship. And today we're going to start off with business basics. Everybody has a handout or a couple of handouts today that are related to the topics that are going to be. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Bob Cohen from SCORE, and he will take it from me.
Thank you, sir. I would stand up, but my back is sore today. Thank you. All right, so okay, so in your handouts, and I'll go through it later, I found 1 or 2 small areas that are printed properly, but I'll put it up on the screen so you can take a look at it. We'll get to that later. The handout's the smallest part of what we're going to do. If you cannot hear me, let me know louder. But I have a pretty good booming voice, so I'll try and make myself as clear as I can.
Excuse me, please. Yes. 1 second. We also have pens and pencils. So if anybody needs anything to write with, let me know, and we'll get something to you.
Excellent. Good. So I'd actually like to introduce the other people who are here from SCORE this afternoon. And you'll see as I go through the presentation what we do and how we work and how we can help. But that's what we do. So in the first row is Pat DeLeon. Pat is one of our mentors and a volunteer with our organization. And behind is Bob Fedor. Bob's been around SCORE for many years, 15 years or more. And Bob tells me what all the way in the back is John Sumhalter. All of the people that are here in this room are part of our leaders, and we're just pleased to be here and work with you. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about SCORE. So basically, it's very simple. We are here to help foster small business communities through mentoring and education. The one thing that we've done as an organization here locally in Cleveland is that we've been focused on communities that we would like to be able to work with. And when I found Sean Ward in East Cleveland Growth Association in Curtis, this is a perfect opportunity for us to do what's to help the community grow through business development. So the idea is that we aim to give every person the support that they as a small business owner. So not only if you're starting out in business, but also if you're already in business, the merchants around the area, we would love to be able to work with them. And we've got about 87 volunteers here locally. We're part of an organization that is 250 chapters, just like here in Cleveland, and about 2,000 volunteers across the country. And here in Cleveland, our volunteers are told here, we don't pay anybody. We have one part-time administrative assistant that gets paid, and that's it. And you'll see we're part of the VA. So we're the largest network of free volunteers to small businesses around the nation. And so no matter what stage your business is in, we're here to help. And that's basically what we do. It's free and it's unlimited. So when you go to our website, which you'll see in a little bit, we've got something for everybody. So if you're a veteran entrepreneur, if you're a Black entrepreneur, Hispanic, women entrepreneurs, and there's a majority of women in this room today, I can tell you that the majority of new businesses that are being started up in the United States are women-owned businesses. So if you're interested, there's another organization that we work with, National Organization of Women-Owned Businesses, or NABO. That's National Association of Women-Owned Businesses. NABO is the acronym for that. Bottom line is that, we are here, and as I said, it's free and it's unlimited. Our portals, I'll show you our website in a few minutes. There's all kinds of information available free on our website. And I just wanted to show you a little bit about the outcomes of what we did last year. So we were for helping 227 new businesses get started here in the Cleveland area. And we go from Beulah along the lake all the way on the east part of the county, the east county of Beulah. And then we have 7 counties, including Cuyahoga County, which is by far the largest, which is where Cleveland is located, across the lake all the way to Huron, Sandusky, and Erie counties. So we have a very big area that we work with, probably a population of 2 million total. Over 2 million, yeah. So and a lot of businesses. We also helped to create 919 jobs. PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is an organization that does measuring and surveying, are the ones that went out and actually put this survey together so that we know. And after alone here in Cleveland, we really provided almost 9,000 services throughout the course of last year. And what that really means is one-on-one mentoring, where we're actually talking directly to people that are interested in business, and workshops just like this one that people come to be a part of it. And we do about 100 workshops a year. I would say 95% are online. This is only the second one that I've done live in the last 2 or 3 years. And I got to tell you, I like it a lot better than sitting at my desk at home, you know, talking into a computer. It's much nicer to have people I can look at and talk to. So I'm really glad that we can do that. We also have a code of ethics. And that's really important because we do not share any information about any of our clients with anybody. So every year, our mentors have to actually take the Code of Ethics module. It's a training module. It's done on the website. And then they literally have to sign off on it every year. And if they don't do it by the deadline, which is the end of September, they are not allowed to work with us any further. And so, you know, we'll lose 4 or 5 people a year just because they don't do that. And so we make money in any way from our clients. Everything we do is totally volunteer. We cannot use any information for data commercial reasons. So I might take your names and send you information about webinars and workshops that are coming up. And then our client information is totally confidential and it's protected by the federal government, which we are part of, in that we are in part sponsored by the SBA. SBA gives us a little bit of money toward our budget every year, and we then raise the rest of the money that we need. Just in fact, Bob is responsible for our fundraising and outreach for SCORE, and we raise the rest of the money that we need on our own. So that's kind of a
yeah. I don't think you mentioned, we also mentor non-profit.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we're finding out that more and more people are starting nonprofit organizations. In fact, we have 2 or 3 or 4 here in East Cleveland that have nonprofit organizations that we work with as their mentors. So yeah, some great expertise there. And I'll talk a little bit about nonprofits as I walk through business structure. So the last thing I want to do is show, before we go into the program, is show our website. This is the home page, and I think it's live. I don't think it's live, actually. Okay, well, we'll have to live without that for the moment. I don't know why I thought oh yeah, I do. All right, now it's live. So, as you can see, if you're interested in finding a mentor, I'll talk about that a little bit more. You go to this tab, find a mentor, and you would hit that and give us information about you and about the interest you have in particular business. And we then get that. We have what we call a client intake coordinator. So when they receive the request, they then will assign it to a mentor that we feel is fit and best matches the needs that you tell us that you have. And then we'll push you together. That mentor will connect to you. It's supposed to be in 48 hours unless it's over the weekend, and it's 72 hours. But yes, we will then connect with you. The other thing I wanted to let me just go back one. And tell you a couple things. So we've got, and in fact, if you're volunteering, we always need volunteers. But we've got a very good library, and so for instance, you know, if you're looking for something very specific about a business topic, you can just go to this box right here and type. So this looks like I've already typed in business plan templates, and hit the search bar, it actually will show you, so for instance, business plan template for a startup business. This is all free. If you go to our website, you can find that. And I can actually download the template to my computer, bring it up. Take a second for it to bring it up. And I'm going to blow it up too large. And do that. So, just to give you an idea, here's a business plan startup template, and it's available, it's free. It actually literally walks you every step of putting together a business plan, some of which we're going to discuss today. And then over the subsequents that we do, we're actually going to work with you on putting together a business plan. So things like, a company description, products and services. I'll go into that in a couple minutes in this presentation. I'm going to get out of this and start the presentation. Any questions before I go on about SCORE, the things that we do, about business development or any of those things? Okay,
But we encourage you to ask questions
for sure.
when you feel like.
Yeah,
Wait
yeah,
till
yeah.
the end.
All right. So we call this simple steps for starting your business, and today we're going to talk about startup basics. Now, starting with anything that's simple, but we try to boil it down into something that's digestible. The one thing about starting a business is complex, but if you think about it, and you think about it in bite-sized pieces, it's a whole lot easier, and I'm going to serve it up today in bite-sized pieces. And we've actually, as you'll see in a sec, so it basically, this is designed as a 5-week course. It's going to be longer than 5 weeks because we can't get this room consecutive for the next 5 weeks. So we will announce when the next session is. Everybody that is in this room today have your email address. I will make sure that you are mailed the slides that I'm going through, as well as the handout materials that we'll go through. And if we get a recording of this, I can also send you the recording. Okay, but I can definitely send you the slides and the material. So typically, this is fairly hands-on, where we actually will bring mentors into the room and we'll work with you on parts of your business. The one that we're doing today is not so much, but it's just kind of a general idea of how to start. And so if you take a look, section 1 is startup basics. Session 2, which will be the next one, is actually business concepts. So it's defining what it is, how it works, how you're planning to work, what your competition is all about, assuming you have competition, what other organizations, if you're a nonprofit, are out there doing what you do. And we'll start thinking through those. The idea here is that anything in between the sessions that we're doing, we can assign a mentor you can work with and continue working through your business planning and things like that in between these sessions. So the third section is a marketing plan. And you'll see on your handout, Ann's Nursery, a feasibility study. If you get a moment at home, read this. It's not that long. It's pretty easy reading. But what's nice about it is it's a case study. A woman named Ann who started a nursery, and you'll see all the steps that you went through. You see all the things that she did in order to understand how that business would work. And so the research that she did on her business concepts, which is number 2 section, the marketing that she did, which is the number 3 section, and the financial planning, which is the most difficult, which is session 4. And then in session 5, we're actually going to be bringing in somebody from the SBA and a banker. Actually, it might be one and the same person, works for the SBA and he's a banker, to talk to you about finding funding. Now, we'll talk about this. Finding funding is going to be the most difficult thing that you will have in starting a business. And you'll see a little bit about that. We're going to talk about that. So a couple of things that you're going to learn today, some of the myths and realities of being an entrepreneur, and things that are critical for success. To understand what options you have. So there's a lot of different options for setting up a legal entity for your business. Some components about business ownership, making it legal, and there is a handout on that. And then funding and cash management. We'll talk about all of this stuff, but then in the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about it in much, much more detail. And then business planning basics. So, people come to us all the time, and they've got an idea, or at least they think it's a great idea. They came up with something in the middle of the night, in the shower, woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, can't get it out of their head. It's a great idea for a business. Well, maybe it is, but it's not going to be successful unless you go through all of what it takes to get that business up and running. So that people always think is if you go it alone, you won't have to work so hard, so many long hours. There are a few people that do that. There are people that have some websites out there. The website sells itself and the materials and all, and that. But it's very, very unlikely that you will start a business and work less hours than work in your life. You'll be working more hours if you're dedicated to growing that business. The other thing is that you'll be able to deduct every taxes. Not so much. And we'll talk about that as we go along. Yeah, there are some options that you can have as a business owner. If you have a car and you're using your car, you can write some of that off, but you've got to be able to do it the right way. So we'll talk further on that. If you are working independently, you don't have to report to a boss. Yeah, the boss that you're not reporting to is probably hundreds of customers that is now your boss. Or if you're working and you're doing manufacturing, the problem is that you get beat up by everybody now, not just the boss. You're up by your customer, you're getting beaten up by your vendor, you're getting beaten up by people that work for you. So it's not so easy to just think that you're going to walk away from a job and be your own boss and have a great life after that. It's tough work, and it doesn't work that way. And then, you get to do the work that you want, yes and no. So, to give you an example, when COVID hit, there were a lot of great businesses out there doing very well. Then all of a sudden, business dropped down through the floor, and money stopped coming in, and people had to think of better ways to either take products and services that they were currently using to a different clientele, or reinvent themselves to the same clientele that they had. And if you didn't do that, then you fell out of business in some way or another. That's a real problem if you're not thinking ahead. One of the things that we'll talk about is a business plan, and having a good idea about how you're planning your business gives you the opportunity to think through when things don't go according to what you had in your head. So, and then the last myth I think here is that if you choose to be self-employed, you'll be limited in what you can achieve because you'll be working alone. And I don't think that. I think that there's always growth potential, and I would recommend it, even though if you're starting a small business, you start it small. You start by yourself. You bring people in. You bring in partners if necessary, and then you grow it a little bit at a time. And there will come a time that if you decide to grow it, or what we call in business scale up, then you've got a really good background, really good, let's call it structure that you can take and you can expand on that, and that's where it comes in. But I always recommend, and some people do it as a side hustle. They'll start their business as a side hustle, get to the point where they're doing well enough to leave the jobs that they're in. And, it's not like, thank God I'm that. It's now you're on to something else that's going to be as difficult, if not more so, to grow a business. So just some things to think about. Obviously, profit planning is your key to success. People don't fail because people fail to plan, and that's why businesses fail. So if you take 5 years, about 50% of the businesses, and it might even be worse now with the recession and things that are going on and COVID, 50% of businesses fail, and for a lot of reasons. And sometimes it's no fault of your own, it just is. We try to help people to stave off that chance of failure. I do find that people that work with SCORE have a better opportunity for success than people that try to go it alone. And you'll see as we go on. So I'm just going to go through quickly because, you wouldn't be here, if you didn't have tenacity and a strong work ethic and the ability to multitask. Education and experience is always good. So, I wouldn't recommend that you go out and start a restaurant because you like to eat. Seriously, and believe me, clients say that. I'm really a foodie. I like to eat. I understand food, but they've never run a business. They've never run a restaurant, and fail at a very high rate, much higher than normal businesses do. So why would you go into a restaurant if you haven't had experience managing a restaurant? So what we would always say to a client is, why don't you get some experience and let's talk further about how you can do this. Maybe think about putting together your business plan now while you're working for somebody else, but getting the experience that you need to understand. So that's a very simplistic example, but there are, deeper dives that you can take. We get a lot of people that want to nonprofits as well, and they might want to start a nonprofit that is a group home, and they want to they want to help the world, and that's a wonderful mission. And you'll see nonprofits are mission driven, but if you don't have experience in those areas, then you need to either get that experience or figure out others that have the experience. And we'll talk about nonprofits because it's a little bit different animal than a for business. Anyway, so the willingness to ask input from others, which is why SCORE is here. One of the things we say is you don't have to go it alone. So not only do we have the mentors, for instance, the people in this room, but we are part of a much larger ecosystem throughout the Cleveland community in all the neighborhood development organizations, through Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, through ECDI, through the Women's Business Center. So we work with all of these organizations, and we will exchange clientele. So, for instance, if somebody goes to ECDI or the Urban League for a loan, or Women's Business Center for a loan, they may then send the client to us referral-wise and say, will you work with them on putting together a business plan? And we do. And then when that business plan is ready to go, then we will refer the client back to the organization for funding help. So that's one way in which we work. And that's one way in which we're connected to what we call the business ecosystem system here in the Cleveland area. So, all these things, effective time management, willing to ask for input, adequate capital. I can't stress enough how important money is going to be. And, we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. Starter, resourceful, responsible, organized. I mean, you all are probably all these things again, or you wouldn't be here. And having a supportive family is very, very important.
Yeah,
So-
I've just got a comment on that.
Please do.
It's surprisingly, maybe shocking, how many clients I've had at the time who haven't told us what their idea is, or sign a lease without it telling the family, or really never gonna buy their spouse that it's gonna take this amount of time. And you may work with them for a year, and then you find out it's compatible with my family's. It happens. It happens often.
It does, yeah. So, yeah, so I would recommend definitely, bringing your partner, your family, everybody to your idea. I think it's really important. And really what it boils down to, if you've got supportive people working with you from inside your family, it just makes such a difference. It's just one thing you don't have to worry about. I've been very fortunate family-wise as well, to having a wife that understands the fact that I've been on the road most of my adult life to make a living. But that's the kind of support you need to have. Now, what I've got up here is an organizational chart. And, when you're starting out the business by yourself, you are all of these things. Right?
Me on that. I'll just interject. You should know that many of the people who are mentors, volunteers, we own our own business. I do myself, and I am all of those things for my business. And it takes a lot. That whole self-starter thing, because I have clients who come to SCORE and that I mentor, and that's the thing, or the biggest challenge they have is being a self-starter. Actually believing in their mind that they could do any of this, and even the previous screen that Bob showed you, because a lot of folks, they have a hard time. They get, you know what I mean, and trying to move forward, and that's where SCORE, moreover, comes in as mentors. What we do, we get past the point of being stuck. So, and letting you know and encouraging you, I would say it's much or more than anything. And we do this for each other. We're cheerleaders. We like to say, yes, you can do this, and you will do this.
Yeah. But the one thing that we can help with, as a good comment, is, when you start a business, I call it linear thinking. Here's your dream over here. Here's where you got to start to get to here. And then these are all the things that you need to do in between some of those things. And it's linear thinking. It's going from point A to point B. Sometimes you go back to the dream, back to point C and D and so on and so forth. But that's kind of one of the things that Pat is referring to.
And one of the things we are trained to do is we'll never tell you that your idea is bad.
Yeah.
We tell you that. We will try to tell you the issues with your idea. You have to make the decision that the idea is bad.
Yeah.
Because that's too much of a judgment for us.
Yeah.
And we could be wrong.
So it's not a code of ethics. It's what we call a slate.
Yeah.
It's just
Measuring methodology.
and yes, mentoring methodology. Suspend judgment. That's the very first thing that we've taught to do. Second thing is listen and learn.
Shut up your mouth.
Yeah. And I've been a salesperson my entire life, and the one thing that I've taught young salespeople as they become part of whatever industry they're in the sales side of it, is to listen 70% of the time and talk 30% time. That's a good salesperson. And if the salesperson is listening, they're not selling. And when they finally understand what it is a particular person is looking for, then they're serving that up, and it's not selling. So that's an important aspect. So now we're going to talk a little bit about various types of businesses, okay? So basically starting a new business, starting a nonprofit, or actually even looking at a franchise thing. As they get older, the words come slower.
Yeah, we've given this presentation a couple times.
At least once, twice. So, when you're starting a brand new business, you've got a nice idea, you're not hampered by somebody's, previous image or their technologies. You've got a blank slate. It's like standing in front of a canvas, beginning to think through a paint. You can choose your location, your name, the relationships, the people you work, vendors, all that stuff. And you can also explore new markets on your own, and you can come up with the directions that you want to come up with and look at how your dream comes true. And that's all well and good. And I would say probably 85% of the businesses that we deal with are startups. The startup businesses that we do are businesses versus somebody buying a business or selling a business. But there are some disadvantages in that. So, you've got no base of business to build on. So you've got to start everything from scratch. Okay, you have no history. So when you're thinking through things like financials, you are, at best, making educated, yet at worst, you're throwing darts at a dartboard. And so that's tough when you're looking for financing to convince a bank, for instance, or a lender that you know what you're talking about financially, even if you're good with finance. So that's an issue. It's a greater risk to start from scratch versus buying a business that's already successful. As a track record, so difficulty for financing. And so there are a whole lot of reasons why, that dream could become a nightmare. So, we can go into all kinds of detail on this. And if you work with a SCORE mentor and you're thinking about starting from scratch, they'll walk you down the right path to that. Or same thing if you're thinking about buying a business. So if you're thinking about buying a business, there's some advantages there too. So for instance, if you walk into a small store or a restaurant or an online business or whatever it is, there are established clientele and potentially, buyers got a location. That's a great advantage. That's, so you're walking into something that's going to might cost you more money than it might than if you were starting from scratch. You don't know. You potentially have a proven entity or quantity that it's a formula. They may have a good name. Those are all things that you need to think about. When you start or buy a business from somebody, it's always nice if the owner will work with you for a while that business is growing or while you're trying to get it moving again. And then, the one thing that I would recommend highly is that you review the records of the business and you make sure you have finances. You're making sure that you're looking at all the legal issues. You want to make sure that there are no loans out there, that are no liens on the business, that they've got a good business reputation. If you're checking on Google or any website to see how they're rated, the last thing you want to do is get involved in a business that has been poorly rated. It's real tough to come down from that. But there are some difficulties here too, some disadvantages, potential hidden issues, debts, poor reputation, loyalty to the owners. So if you've got an organization, let's say it's a store, and the customers are very loyal to that particular business, and you buy that business, and for whatever reason you can't keep their loyalty, they're going somewhere else, you lose business just like that. So there's no guarantee that when you buy a business that things are going to go the way you like them to go. So there's no guarantees. I would tell you to review legally, financially, every aspect of any business that you involve in, and that is where you want to involve a lawyer. And we at SCORE are not lawyers, although we have lawyers who are mentors, and we can give you a little bit of advice, but we wouldn't give you lawyerly advice. You'd have to go to a lawyer and talk to them directly. Same thing with finance. You might want to go to an accountant, have them review in order to move on. So let's talk about franchise. Advantages and disadvantages there. Does everybody have an idea of what a franchise is and how it works? Anybody that would like me to give you a quick explanation of what a franchise is? happy to do that. Okay, so.
Subway,
Yeah, Subway, McDonald's, you know.
cleaning services.
Yeah, cleaning, a lot of cleaning services that are franchises. And so, and that might be a good one to talk about because, I'll tell you another one, visiting, which is, yeah, you know, an organization here in Cleveland. When you buy a franchise, if you buy the right franchise, that there's a proven track record, they've got an image, they've got product, marketing, sales power. You can do it with limited experience. I talked to you about, you know, don't start if you don't have the education. You can do a franchise, and many franchises, they will teach you how to run that business. They'll give you training and professional guidance. Chances are they've got all the financial materials done, so it's not like these foods from scratch. And you know, they can, you know, if you're working with a good franchisor, they have a continued relationship with you where they're actually helping you. They have marketing help, they have, as I said, and then the other thing is you've got access to other franchisees. So other people that have those franchises, you can talk to ask them about things that you need to know. Here's some disadvantages. You potentially can lose control over how you operate, what products you use, how you sell, and things like that, because if you are thinking about starting because those are the things that you want to be able to touch and feel and control, you might not have that. You sign up with a franchise, you know, you sign up with McDonald's, you can't go out and step and sell, you know, a filet mignon because they don't, it's not part of their menu. And so that's a real issue. So if you want that kind of control, a franchise may not be the way to go to get that done. On the other hand, you know, if you want something that's got their products proven, franchise is good for that. Franchises have loyalty fees as well as, you know, other kinds of franchise fees. So to give you an example, you might have a franchise that you are paying money right from the top. So let's say you earn $100,000 in this franchise in 1 year. That franchise agreement might say that you have to pay 10% right off the top. So you're paying them $10,000 on your $100,000. Now, so the franchise fees may or may not be all that difficult to deal with based on the franchise you have and what the amount of the fee is. You just, you know, it's just something to look at. The other thing is that you might be charged specifically for the marketing products that you do. So that's cost that are coming in.
But there's always upfront cost.
And certainly upfront costs, yeah. So I've looked at franchises in the past, and some I was pretty close to doing deals with. If you talk to a franchise, they typically will send you a franchise agreement and all the other stuff that goes along with it so that you have a very good for it. Now, there are some franchise brokers out there. We work with an organization called FranNet, F-R-A-N-E-T. And FranNet is just like I would say a real estate broker, at least if I were to draw some sort of parallel line. But what they do, and you want to make sure you get with an organization that is on the up and up. But what FranNet is, they will vet some 200 or 300 franchises. They won't take every franchise. They'll only vet the ones that make sense for them. And if they will then talk to you about it, if you buy the franchise, it's the franchisor that pays the brokerage fee to the organization that is the FranNet. So is that clear? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. It's easy to get tangled.
It is very surprising how many franchises are out
Oh, yeah.
there. There's a huge number.
Yeah.
Out there. Oh, you go down Main Street, and maybe 2/3 of the stores you see
Wouldn't surprise me.
are
Yeah.
franchise.
So, you know, cleaning services, paint services, Restaurants.
Restaurants.
Yeah, rental.
Rental, storage.
Yeah. Or even like rental tools and things like that. Those are all franchise. So when you look at a franchise, think about the franchise itself, look at the cost, because every franchise is going to say, we're looking for franchisees that have X amount of dollars in net worth. And net worth is a measure of different things. But, and you might want to sit down and consider what your net worth is over time. It's generally, if you own a that's part of your net worth. If you've got bank accounts, it's part of your net worth. If you own a car, it's part of your net worth. And so, if you get one of these big franchises, they may say, you got to have $1 million in net worth. We want to talk to you. But there are others that are much more affordable that may not be bad ways to start. If you're thinking about doing a franchise, then I would still talk to SCORE Mentor about it. Because what we'll do is we'll look at the franchise agreement, we'll look at things that we can then say, we'll point things to you and say, you need a lawyer to look at this, or you need a banker to look at this, or beware of this, or we did some research or research on other franchisees, and they think that this is horrible, don't do it. So those are the types of things that you want to do in advance of actually considering to go too far. So I'm not going to talk too much about home-based business because I want to talk about nonprofit. But the advantages are it's an easy place to work. So if I work out of the third bedroom in my house, it's great. I'm there, I'm by myself. I can do what I want to do. I can, let's say, work on a web-based business, and it's all there. I can just do it. It is less expensive. And one of the things that when you start a business, the easier it is to get into business, the more competition you're going to have. So we look at the ease of startup with a business. So think of it this way: if you were to start an Amazon tomorrow, how much would it cost you to begin Amazon from scratch tomorrow? Versus, I'm a great photographer. I'm going to start a photography business. So the barriers to entry, meaning a lot of capital, a lot of equipment, a lot of, let's say, knowledge and things like that. Those are high barriers. Low barriers to entry are, I can go out tomorrow and I can start a photography business because I have a camera. So the lower the barrier to entry, the more competition you will have in your business, and the more difficult it will be for you to get business. Not that it's not difficult anyway. So a home-based business is a low barrier to entry. But listen, you could be very, very successful if you're smart and you're clever and you're good sales and you've got, whatever it is that you're doing. So the other things you got though is if there are zoning issues. I know that people are starting, let's say, group homes. If you're not looking at zoning issues and you bought a house and this house is in a place where you cannot do this, you just lost how many thousands of them. And I've seen it.
What I run into is parking.
Yeah.
If you run a whole business, that's coming to you, you may not be allowed to have people park.
Yeah. So for a
Some
good portion,
communities.
a good portion of my career, I worked for Marriott Hotels. Okay, and in the Marriott lore, they started was Ellis and J.W. Marriott. They came across the country. They started a business in Washington, D.C., a little restaurant called Hutchins. Okay, they expanded it into a multi-gazillion-dollar business and then became Marriott Hotels. But the lore is that when they were getting ready to open a restaurant, they would stand on the corner of the place looking at opening that restaurant, and they would count cars. And they wouldn't go to a place that didn't have the kind of traffic they expected. And Bob said, parking and things like that. Those are all things you need to take into consideration. Anyway, home-based businesses are difficult to finance. And you may, because they're a low barrier to entry finance, you may not be that or that high to do. And there is some IRS scrutiny if you're writing off portions of your home in your taxes. Those are all things to be aware of. All of this stuff you can work around. I would just say that you work with people that really understand that portion of it, and they can help you, point you in the right direction, and point out issues that you need to consider. And the last thing I wanted to talk about in the types of businesses, and there's more than what I'm talking about, is nonprofit. Anybody in the room thinking about starting a nonprofit? You guys are a nonprofit.
And we're a nonprofit.
And so is SCORE. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. As is, are you guys 501c3?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've got two nonprofits in the house. But one of the things that we have found is that when we look at the population of our clients, people come to us asking to start business. I would say now, first of all, I would say 60–70% are women. 50–60% of the women are African American women. And I would also say that 40%, 30% of those that are looking to start businesses are looking to start nonprofits. To kind of measure with your thoughts, Bob?
At least
20. Okay. So that it's worth talking about. So the advantage is it allows an operation that's not for profit status with no owners. Okay. So nobody owns that. And Curtis don't own the nonprofit that they just started. They started it for the community. Okay. And so SCORE doesn't have any owners either. We have a bunch of volunteers. We have people that run the donation portion of it. Those are people in Washington, D.C. that actually get paid to do what they do. So one nice thing is that many foundations and government grantors will give money to a nonprofit. A nonprofit is primarily there because you've got a mission or a vision that you want to accomplish. John, what's your mission?
Our mission is to rebuild the economic base in East Cleveland through retail, new housing development, new startup businesses.
Okay, so you see, number one, that how simple that is. Okay, he did that in about 10 seconds. Okay, but you know exactly what he's trying to do, and if you have any interest in that mission, you're going to jump on board. At least I jumped on board. So ours is to foster small, vibrant business communities. Okay. Anyway, so it's a mission-driven business. Okay, so you could, based on that, if you become a 501c3, even if you're not, you can qualify for grants and funding. You have some protection from liability. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Your directors. So every nonprofit organization has to have a board of directors. Okay, Sean, do you have a board of directors members? Do you have? I hope I'm not.
We have none.
You have 9?
We have none.
Oh, none.
Nine.
Okay.
In the state of Ohio, you need 3.
Right.
Minimum of 3.
Okay.
And this is our board president.
There we go.
There you go. Yes. So, and so the idea is that you are you're bringing in funding to help accomplish that mission. You have programming in your mission, and those are the things that your dollars are supporting. If a nonprofit organization decides to fold, you can't take that money and put it in your pocket. You got to take that money and either donate it to another nonprofit, and likely someone's got a mission statement similar to yours. So that's it. The disadvantages are, if I go out and start a nonprofit, and Sean too for that matter, Curtis, if the board of directors decides that you're not living up to your mission, or you're doing something that shouldn't be done, or not working in a way that makes sense, they can fire you. Even though you were the one that started it, you're the director of that organization. I mentioned all profits need to stay within, and other disadvantages are that you can't just take profit and put it in your pocket. A for-profit business can do that. You start a business and you're the owner of that business. That money is yours to do what you want. Now, you've got to report it and you've got to use it legally. But if you decide that you want to pay yourself a benefit of some sort, you can do that. So, how am I on timeline? We good looking?
Yeah, good.
Okay, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep, so just let me know if I'm getting boring. I talked about online businesses. I'm not going to go into much detail on that. The one thing, and I'll go quickly here as well, business organization structure. So a nonprofit, which is really not showing here, is a 501c3. If you want to start a nonprofit, the first thing you need to do is go to the state. I'll show you a website to look at. But all of these links that are in this slide presentation, when you get it, will be live. You can click on it and it'll open up for you. So if you're a nonprofit, you will first go to the state of Ohio. You register there at IRS and get your 501c3 status, and our schools can help you to do that. It's really not very difficult. It's just a matter of knowing that's what you got to do. So a sole proprietor is, I can go out tomorrow and call myself Bob's Pretty Good Bakery, and I'm a sole proprietor, and I own it, and I'm in business. But there's issues with that. First of all, I'm going to have to pay employment tax. I have to pay tax on all the money that I bring in, and that's going to go through my personal income. Okay, which may be good. It depends on how you structure it. Going to leave myself open though to liability. So if somebody sues me because they got a piece of glass in one of my cakes, they're going to sue me. Okay, they sue my bakery because I'm my bakery and I'm a sole proprietor. So, and the same thing holds true with a partnership. Different kinds of partnership, but the plain partnership I'm talking about is two people get together and call themselves a business. And basically, it's two proprietors and partners. They have no agreement between themselves. So something happens, who knows what goes on at one time. One dies, God forbid, what happens at that point in time? What happens to the family? So the best thing to do is to make it legal. And there are a few different ways to do that. One of which is called a limited liability corporation, or an LLC. An LLC is basically you starting a business, just going to the Ohio.gov site, and I'll show it to you in a sec, and going through the motions of doing that. I think you have to do a name search, and that then, if that name works, then you could likely use it as a web. You'd have to search that as well. But you have to register the name, register as an LLC, and then you become a known LLC, and it's almost instantaneously. It does cost $99 to do, and we can help you do that if you need to help, or you can just go to ohio.gov, start a business. I'll show you that, and that's a good way to do it. So what that helps with is that either you and or your partner start a limited liability corporation partnership as well. You and your partner are less likely, not can't be sued directly, but very less likely to get sued. So somebody eats a piece of glass from my bakery, it's got it. They would sue the bakery, and they can only get as much as that bakery is worth. They could potentially come after me directly, but it's less likely. So it's a liability corporation. A C corporation is kind of a conventional corporation, and that is the type of corporations that some of these much larger organizations are. I'm not going to go into it very deeply because most people either are sole proprietors, limited liability corporations, or in 501c3 nonprofits, and S corporation, which is another type of corporation. It's called a sub S. So it's very similar. Are you guys subchapter S?
No, I just have a question.
Oh, sure.
For the scope of the project.
Go
Can
ahead.
that be converted to a OSB?
Yes. Yeah, I think we can.
I didn't hear.
Can a sole proprietor be converted to an
Oh,
LLC?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Online,
99,
anytime.
99 bucks, that'll help you guys.
We strongly encourage.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're dealing with policy.
Mhm. Yeah. So an S corporation is very similar to a C corporation. When you sue a C corporation, you're suing that corporation. You're not suing the board of directors. You're not likely suing a particular vice president of whatever that organization is. And there are many other things that, if you are issuing stock, which a C corporation would, there are all kinds of issues and things that you need to worry about in stock issuance and things like that, types of stock. So that's what a C corporation does. The S corporation is similar, except that the owners of that corporation, while they get some of the benefits of a C corporation, a subchapter S corporation, you can have the all of the financials flow through your personal income. Advantages and disadvantages. Doing that, I'm not going to go into any of that right now. Talk to your attorney or talk to your accountant.
Typically, S corps, and my wife was involved in S corps for 25 years. It would have, say, 4 to 10 or more partners, because you need more structured general partners.
Yeah.
And how you operate if you have a lot of partners. And we get them occasionally.
Yeah, no, we do. And so, there are advantages and disadvantages to each and every one of those, and it makes sense to look through all of them before you make a final decision. So I said I was going to go to ohio.gov, and I'm pulling that up now. This is a live link to ohio.gov. You see start a business. And what's nice about this is there's checklists. It's really a nice, you can go on here and there's a review guide to starting this in Ohio. I'll open it. I just want to be considerate of time. You're okay. Yeah, okay. So here it is. It's a really nice booklet, and you can download it and actually print it out if you want to. Here it is. Quick reference guide, business planning, how should I start my business, how should I register, all the stuff I just talked about. And by the way, in your handouts, this one right here, basic forms of business, that's what I just talked about. You can take that home, or it'll also be on your slides, or you can go here. So I'm not going to go into much detail other than the fact that this is printed out, click printed out. It's really talks about licensing, the IRS, all the things that you need to know about. And if you have any questions, you can call them directly. They're actually really nice about talk, or call a SCORE mentor and we'll talk to you. So let me get out of this. Back to that. And is there anything else on here? I think that's all. So on the slides that I send you, these links will be live. So you see, keep it simple. Proprietor, liability. If you think you need that for taxation, then go to C or an S corp. I would say 85–90% of our clients are LLCs. Something to that effect. Okay, so let's go quickly through this, because these are the things you still need to think about. Insurance, instance. You see something, we've got a catering company back here. Hopefully you guys have insurance in case something goes wrong, liabilities, car insurance, all that stuff that you need to do to make sure that you are well protected, liabilities and things like that. Now, I was out in a business that was, large scale audiovisual, where they had huge equipment, they did trusses and stages and things like that. We had to go in with a $2 million rider into a hotel or into a convention center before we can even start business. So have insurance, it's very, very important.
Yeah, I want to make a car insurance. If you have car insurance, but use your car for business, you must get a right for business. I know a case, a very, very unfortunate case, where a person got in an accident, the other side and went into bankruptcy because their car insurance would not cover the case because he was using the car for business.
That just happened to an Uber driver last week.
There you go.
Just last week, an Uber driver had an accident. This was in Pennsylvania. The Uber had an accident with a passenger in the vehicle. The passenger was injured and sued. And Uber said, "Oh no, oh no, you sued the driver. The driver is a contractor and not an employee. Driver is a contractor." And so now the passenger is suing the driver. The driver, of course, well, I have insurance. Well, they didn't have an insurance. They didn't have the rider. They don't have the rider on their car, just their personal car insurance. So what does Allstate say? They say you're in good hands. Well, in this case, their hands open and the driver is responsible for it.
And it's not very expensive.
No.
It's generally,
Yeah, it's well worth it, sure. You know, and if you have a partnership, you might want to take out a section to the partner. It's called key. Yeah, so, I don't know what to call it, key limit. So, no, it's seriously, it's important to have something that happens to be your partner. You know, let's say that partner is really got a big responsibility in your partnership. And that partner's gone, then what? So,
I'll give you the example of the catering business that's coming over here today. You have insurance, business insurance on your property, your car. You get an accident, you'll be on one.
yeah. So, I mean, there's other government regulations just based on the type of business you have. And this stuff is, you know, researchable, findable. We can help you to point you in the right direction to do the research. You know, so you're going into health, there's certain obligations that you're going to have as well. Licensing, same thing if you're, you know, in the food business, same thing. You know, just about any other business, there are particular licenses that you need to look at around the businesses that you're in.
If you're a nonprofit, you're running a nonprofit, file your 990s. They're the federal tax form. It's simple. You can do it online. It's fileable.
Yeah.
Because the government is really, the IRS is really cracking down on nonprofits now, not filing 990s.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't file, you could lose your five.
You will lose your stat. They will revoke your status, not filed within 3 years.
So it's 3 years in a row. You have to
I'm
file
gonna say 3 years in a row.
And if you don't
If you don't file
for 3 years,
for 3 years consecutively, they will immediately revoke your status.
Yeah, if you're filing the 990 easily, it's easy.
It takes 10 minutes to do.
and if you broke like us, it's even.
See,
So that's that. So, you know, I kind of mentioned this, every business owner needs a banker, a lawyer, an accountant, insurance, and some mentors like us. Banking, okay? I don't care if you are looking for, you know, looking for financing or you're doing anything, I would definitely cozy up with the bank. Even if it's just up a checking account, go in there once a month, talk to whoever's in the bank, let them know you're around, tell them what you're doing, information about it. I'm sure you guys do, we do it all the time. And the reason is that if you've got a relationship with a bank or a banker, and it doesn't have to be a big bank.
It could be a credit union.
Yeah, it could be a credit union, it could be a very small community bank. It doesn't have to be a key bank, it doesn't have to be a Huntington. When when you need that banker most, that will be there for you. And I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, when people were getting PPP loans, or actually grants and idle loans, the people that got them fastest and best were the ones that had the banking relationships, because it was the bank that pushed those through. If you didn't have a banking relationship and you just fill out an application, you could sit at a point in time when those loans expired and there was no chance of it because the bank that had them didn't push it through quick enough. So by having that relationship, and that's one example, that's just a good thing to have, okay? And so, one of the things that we've been trying to work with some of the community banks that we can bring to the CDCs that we're working with, so that we can get those relationships established.
Another thing, is any business, you should have a business checking account versus a private. Don't mix the books. It just, a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
Particularly sole proprietors, we have a separate business checking account and your personal checking account.
I believe that Bergen suggested you put in different banks.
Well, a lot of people do that.
We bank, I personally bank one place, but banks someplace totally separate. Commingling the funds get you in real trouble.
Yeah.
It gets you in real trouble.
Even financing your business by yourself. So in other words, you need $100 to make payroll or whatever it is, and you're putting that $100 in, you take it from your personal account and you put it into your business account so that you can account for it at the end of the year that I actually put that in. I lent my business money and you want it back. And so when the business has that money, they can pay you back and there's no hanky-panky. Everybody.
I think you're talking about other problems you can get on the outside. But inside, you don't know how to live unless you isolate. And the best way to measure your success or failure is by isolating.
Agreed, yeah.
And if you have a score mentor, they're gonna say, okay, we gotta separate all these things.
Yeah. And you'll see in the fourth section, we're actually talking about finances. So, we're going to try and make it as understandable as possible based on what we're doing. But the idea is really to take and keep separate financing that you then can go back and you can look on a regular basis. You've got a business going. How do you know whether or not your business is successful? And that's by looking at your finance spreadsheets, or what they call a profit and loss statement, and several others I will get into. So let's talk about funding and cash management. Good time in a minute.
Can we just hold one second?
Oh, yeah.
I want to just ask, are you guys ready to eat? And do we want to take a break before we start this section?
Good idea.
Let you guys eat, then come back? Yeah, let's do that. Let's everybody go back there.
You're up.
So, there's plenty of food back there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to-
No.
Yes.
Make sure all you guys upstairs come down and get some food too. Make sure all you folks that's here come down and get some food too. If anybody needs some help getting served, let us know. We'll make sure that you're taken care of. Later, I'll be gone. Got it? Okay.
When you open to give the other little
I'm hanging in there, hanging in there. How are you? Good.
Yeah, it's on.
How are you, gentlemen?
Rocking that brim, I'm loving it.
You know?
Huh? I said you're rocking that hat.
I do it again.
It's
This is amazing.
Thank you.
I want to see this everywhere.
Yeah, we, every time we do one of these, the other entities in the city will go together with that on the same day to try to.
What?
Well, they're three today.
Like,
There's no one is having
oh,
a
you
in the
mean
park.
East Cleveland?
Yeah,
Oh.
to draw. The last is actually do an event upstairs in this building.
I saw him as Pat. No. I'm Lindsay, and you're liking your floor, you're exploring.
Oh, so we just met Bill, last week.
Right, you told me.
Yeah, right.
When they called your name, I said, oh, I didn't know how they treat them. You know?
It's still wag. Still wagging like, you know, acceptable.
You have.
But I gotta wait. I'm gonna
How's
away.
Stephanie?
Are you going to the, in Carson, you're the one who did something in Carson, right?
Yes.
I forwarded it to Sean.
That's the Monday.
Monday is meeting, Tuesday.
I didn't get it Tuesday.
Okay, so I'll forward you, I can forward it to you now, actually. Because we need you there for that section. Like, I can't, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Don't submit topic. Stephanie.
And yours is all right. Bye. Tell her that.
I hope you all enjoy it. They make great.
Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah, very good.
No. I need everybody. Okay, yeah. Okay, no, we're fine.
At Gmail.
I'll make you. But, no.
Success. Northwestern scored on their first possession. Ohio State scored on their last possession.
Okay, it's going.
Okay. Okay.
Monday, I'm gonna come with a bunch of people.
Oh.
Work inside their work, they work together. We're gonna try to Verizon, you have Observer.
Yeah.
Now I can go to Cleveland Observer.
Because I know when I left there, that. Is what the case still on?
Sponsor?
No, not the other one. It's just way in the back. The last office. No, the older gentleman, older one, who thinks he knows everything and runs everybody and. Oh, yes.
Yeah. He can bully you for sure, but if you're unbelievable, we'll have to have.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Take care.
Did you guys get one? Oh, I tried.
Go ahead.
No, I go.
Oh, you got it.
That's you? That's me. Oh. Sorry.
Well, all right, everybody good?
Excuse me.
Oh.
Put it on Sunday. John.
Starting this organization.
That's what you like, help yourself to everything.
Please.
You know, agencies, missions change, funding.
I started off with.
Hey, good, Sam. There's always something new.
Well, yeah, I'm.
And movie report out.
Good for you. God bless you.
I got one. As long as they're breathing. Oh, there. Here's the-
That's one of my.
Well, you all have that. And it has my wife.
50 million
As much time as I need in school, she does.
for building.
And she.
And that's me.
Well, but she. Thanksgiving's coming up there early.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna do deals with road wiring.
Right there. Oh, okay.
But we want your I mean, I can move on.
I'm white.
You don't want to think about reputation. Character. Character. I'm saying, right up. That's not bad. Character. What is the?
When shall we meet again?
Which one is it? Which side of it? It's over there.
Say, and my wife reminded me that she. Yeah, I think we did, okay. Yeah, yeah.
We wanna, some way.
Oh, I know. But they do come.
That makes sense.
Okay, so when we start thinking about the community, piece, I want you to think big. And by big, I mean really big. Like one of the things we need to hear we talk about is grocery store, right? Everybody talks about grocery store, right? And then there's all this effort to try to get the county to pay for it and all this kind of stuff, right? But there are 5 structures, I think, in East Cleveland. There are already zoned to be grocery stores, right? So one project, for instance, is trying to buy one of those pieces of property, renovate the property, turn it into a grocery store, and then reach out to a national brand and ask them to come in and run the store. All they have to do then is brand it, stock it, pay taxes and all that. But that's one way to have a store. Another project, we've got the farmer's market, right? Another project could be to try to find money to expand, right? To get some indoor facilities so they can do cooking classes or demos or something like that, right? So that's the kind of thing we could do. Like, so another project might be everybody is concerned with safety, right? So what if everybody on the street bought a camera, bought a solar camera? And what if you face your camera at your neighbor's house, your neighbor, their camera at your house? Everybody's house is being watched, right? That camera on their house, camera, and the feed comes to your house, and there's to their house, but it's a community park because we're all looking out for each other. You could even set it up such that if they're all the same brand camera, that one place. So when I say think of a community project, don't limit yourselves to what we want to try to do. I don't know whether we'll be successful or not, but none of us will know. Okay, so with that, just think about it. We'll revisit this right at the end, just to kind of get some ideas, and we'll go for the next session. All right, but with that, I'll turn it back over to Bob.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I'm going to talk a little, I'm going to start winding us down on this. We've covered a lot of material on this. So I'm going to just quickly talk about funding and cash management because we're not quite there yet. In session 5, it's going to actually be a lot of detail than what I'm going in now. So, just think about the things that you need in order to start and manage and run your business. You're going to need to be thinking about, if you're going full time, you're going to need to be thinking about what cost of living is. How much do you need to make, or how much can you, stand to put out in order to keep your business up and running and live at the same time. So think about areas you can cut back. One thing that's going to be very important if you're going to any kind of funding sources is managing your personal debt, because one of the first things they're going to ask about is what your credit scores are. And so getting that credit score where, it's in pretty good shape is going to be very important in order to get any kind of funding, loans, things like that through commercial banks and things in investors for that matter. Things about, how much savings, how much you're going to need in terms of savings to live on. It might be 6 to 12 months before you make a profit. It may be more than that. Some businesses don't make profit until the 3rd or 4th year. But you need to think that's part of your plan. So, things that you're going to need for startup cash, tools and equipment, if you use those, leasehold improvements. So let's say you're renting space somewhere, chances are, you can make a deal with your landlord to fix it up the way you want. It's going to charge you for it, or you could possibly be putting that money in yourself. Licenses, permits, fees for attorneys, for finance, what is your initial inventory going to cost you? So you're going into, let's say you're selling a product, what is that inventory going to be? Or if you're doing manufacturing, what inventory do you need to carry in order to do that? So other things, operating cash, and I'm going into this just at a very, very high level. So we'll get into it in more detail. And if in fact you are in the process of doing a startup with one of our mentors, we'll walk through those in more detail. But things like salaries, like rents, insurance, taxes, fees, advertising, people don't think about what it's to market. Let's say you're putting together a store for, consumers, consumer comes in. How do you get those consumers in the store? That's your marketing program. And those are things that you need to consider. Utilities, maintenance, this is all stuff that's going to affect your startup and then ongoing from that point forward. What we'll talk about this in section 4, but fixed assets and fixed expenses, variable expenses, those kinds of things are all kinds of finance aspect that you need to think about. But and we'll in section 5 we'll go into a lot more detail in terms of sources of capital. 2 types of capital. One is equity. That's money that you have. It's money that you can call on when you need it. Then there's debt. That's money that you borrow, and those are sources of capital. So one thing is though that if in fact you're borrowing a bank or any kind of a lending institute, that they're going to want equity up front, and that equity cannot be something that you borrow from somebody else. So that's something to think about. But equity is your personal savings, money that you can get from family and friends, profits that you have in your business, partners if they're contributing to it. That's equity. That is available to you to put into your business. Think about debt. That's money that you're borrowing from banks, credit unions, community express micro loans. So there are micro loans that are out there that are available. We can talk about in the subsequent sessions. And then just even your suppliers financing it. We'll talk about crowdfunding in the last of the series, and unless you've got questions regarding sources of capital, I'm just going to keep moving on. We good? So if you are going to be money, your lenders are going to be looking for your personal credit score. That's the first thing they're going to talk about. One of the things that we can do with you through SCORE is help you to put together your business plan, and then if you're applying for funding of any sort or grow your business, we can help you put together the actual loan applications. We can even give you some ideas of where you should possibly be beginning your process to look for funding that you're looking for and help you put it together. But look at credit scores. They're going to look at your financial history. They're going to look at your business plan and your ability to pay back. That's going to be the most important thing. They're going to look at how much you invest in the business. So if you're borrowing money, and even if it's a guaranteed loan through the SBA, and I didn't mention SBA here, we'll have something from the SBA in the lesson. So the SBA will potentially guarantee a loan to a bank. So you go to a bank and the banker looks at it and says, you probably get, the banker is saying to you, if you work through the SBA and they guarantee this loan, then, that's going to help us to actually generate the loan and make us a little bit more favorable in terms of taking on that loan. SBA does not loan money. What they do is they will guarantee the loan based on a lot of factors. So in other words, if you default on your loan, that's the last thing you want to be able to do. The SBA will end up absorbing up to about 80 or 90% of that loan. The problem though is that happens, you know, you won't have enough opportunity, another chance probably to get some money down the road for a long, long time. The SBA,
Go ahead and comment on the investment in the business. The rule of thumb would be you have to put in at least 20%.
correct, yeah, that's where I
What we would call skin in the game.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to go to a bank and say, I'm not going to put any money, you're not going to do it.
No. That's absolutely, so, yeah, so you need equity, that's the skin in the game, that's 20%. You know, not unlike if you were to go out home market right now, it would cost you 20% upfront in order for a bank to do home market. The one nice thing though about the SBA is that it makes a bank more comfortable to loan you money if the SBA is talking about guaranteeing some of that. It's not easy to get the SBA to do that, but it is certainly possible. One of the problems is, as a startup, getting money in the first place. Banks don't like loaning startup companies money. It's not to say that they won't, but there are other things that you can do to raise funds. It doesn't have to be through a bank. It could be through community lenders. It could be through organizations that microloans. It could be, there's an organization called the HFLA, which is Hebrew Free Loan Association. And basically that's loans up to a certain amount. And there is no, there's no,
That's $10,000.
I'm sorry?
It's up to $10,000.
Is it up to 10 now? Okay, great. And it's a free loan. You pay it back, but there's no interest on that loan.
Now, recently, I think it was last summer, say this year, the state of Ohio has got a micro loan program that's up to $45,000.
Yeah.
You have to be, two conditions, you have to miss a year. And, well, free, used for working capital. You have to be either a woman or a minority-owned business certified. And what we usually do is, if you're not certified, we send it to Urban League, see Richard Brown down there, and they get you certified. And that you can't even for the loan without that certification.
Yeah, that's
So
something.
that's a 5-year interest-free $45,000.
Right.
working capital. There's nothing better out there in the
EC
country.
ECDI has some microloans available, as well as larger loans. So there are a lot of places you can look. As I said, it's difficult for a startup business to get it, but you know, so the thing that you really want to consider when you're starting your business and you're operating your business is cash as the most important. And so understanding things like cash flow, and you know, if you're not looking at reports like the cash flow report or a profit and loss report or a balance statement, then you don't really know how well your business is doing or not. And you know, you could be losing money and still have reasonable cash flow, which is good. You know, what I mentioned before is that a lot of businesses take a year, 2 years, 3 years to get to the point where they're profitable. Understanding and how to manage your cash keeps your business up and running. And those are things that you know, in understanding. We'll cover that in a lot more detail in the last of the sessions that we do, actually the fourth session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about business plan basics. I'm not going to go into in detail on what I meant, because for the next several sessions, this Ann's Nursery case study, if you get a chance to read it, I think it would be very helpful. It's written, it's easy to read. I think you'll understand a lot from looking, and the rest of the sessions that we do will track to this. So I would, you know, take it home with you. We'll try and send some out, and I send you follow up. Let's talk about a business plan and why you would even want one. You know, there are a lot of different kinds of business plans that you can do. There's something very simple called business plan. There are simple business plans that are 1, 2, 3 pages long. The business plan about is in a lot more detail. And when you talk to your SCORE mentor, based on the type of business and how you're trying to manage and operate that business, they'll make the recommendation as to what type of business plan would work best. But in general, it's a great tool. It's a blueprint for how you run your business. And what it really does for you is it makes you think through your business. It's not just, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this stuff, I'm going to sell it at this price, I'm going to get that profit. You can't think of it that way. This will prepare you to think objectively about your business. Remember, in the beginning, I talked about thinking linearly from this is your dream, this is step number 1. That's what that business plan will help you do. It'll help you think about things that you don't now know that you need to think about. And that's the nice thing about the business plan and working with SCORE. So it's going to make you think about and answer relevant questions about your business and how you're doing. And then it's a good way to communicate your thought process to others. And if you're going to a bank for funding, it's something that's required of you. You're going to need to put together a business plan. It doesn't have to be massive. It'll be 5, 10, or 15 pages. 15 would be, but it needs to explain who you are, what you're doing, what you're trying to get accomplished, how you're going to get it accomplished, how much money you need, how you're going to pay the money back, and when you're going to pay the money back. Your business plan will cover all those things. So there are free business plan templates on the SCORE website, and like I said, there's no single best approach. Work with your mentor and think it through based on your own ideas of what you want to accomplish. I know you the contents of a typical business plan. So you start out with an executive summary where you summarize everything that follows this. I generally recommend you do that last, but a quick description. You saw quickly Sean gave you the mission statement about what it was that the Eden Growth Association does. That's your company description should be that. We call that elevator speech. The time it takes from the 10th floor down to the 1st floor, you're telling somebody who you are and what you do. That's your elevator speech, and that's part of your company description. And our second shot is going to actually go through looking at relevant data that you want to collect about your business and your competitors and the industry that are out there, so that you can actually articulate what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to do it. And that's part of the second part of this part of the business and second part of the section that we're going to go through. And then the marketing plan, which is the third part of what we're going through, is very, very important as well. So, as John Sonhofer says, the who, what, where, why, when, and how. And your marketing plan is, okay, so you've got a product, you know what you want to sell, you might even already have an idea of how you're going to price it, and what types of profit you're going to make. How are you going to get people to buy it? And that's your marketing plan. Who's your target? Okay, it's a silly analogy, but it's one that works very, very well. I like the fisherman analogy, and that means my analogy is that you got to fish where the fish are. Okay, and if you're not fishing where the fish are, that's your target audience. You're not going to catch anything. And then the second part of that is you got to be using the bait that they're keying in on that particular time in that moment. That's your marketing story, and your marketing plans need to reflect that. So what message you're trying to get across, and then the operational plan. So that's the nitty-gritty. That's again, part 1, part 2, part 3. So when you're operating a business, you think about, if I make this product, it's going to take X, Y, Z components to do that. It's going to take X, Y, Z, manufacturing to get that done. And then beyond that, how do I get that product distributed? If we're with a service, if you're an architect, same kind of situation. If you are, let's say, a landscape person or have a landscaping company, you know, your operational plans are going to outline how you work and how you make your money. And then what's your management and organization look like? You saw the work plan that I showed earlier on of all the boxes. You know, that eventually will be some sort of reality where you need to think through who's doing what, to who, and when it's being done. That's your operational plan and your management organization structure. And then the financial, your expenses, your capitalization, all your financial planning is going to be part of your business plan. Again, depending on, you know, the very complex business, it's going to be more things getting those things done. You have a very simple business, it'll be much simpler and do that. But that's going to be dictated by what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to do it. And then things that you can put in the back. We don't even need to go into that right now. So, you know, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. Who needs your product? Why they need it? You know, what makes it different or better? So there's something called a value proposition. What is your value proposition? What makes you better than anybody else that's out there? We're going to talk about competition in a great deal of detail over the next several courses that we teach on this. And what makes you better? What makes you different? If you know, I remember as a salesperson going to a client and talking to them about the product that I have, and they came back, well, such and such a company sells exactly the same product for exactly the same price, better. And I remember the first time somebody asked me that question, I couldn't answer it. I lost the sale. So that's really important. It's so simple to think about what makes me better. What value do I bring to the table? What problems am I solving with the products or the services or the things that I bring to my business? And if you can't come up with something that's going to make you stand out and be different, then in fact you won't be able to make it. We'll talk about marketing in a lot of detail, but how do you acquire customers? How are you getting people to purchase? We'll go out of that in the third session. How you're positioned, that's part of your marketing. Competition, I can't stress enough how you need to think about who your competition is, who's doing something similar, and how what you do or different. We're going to talk about, you know, actually understanding what makes you stronger or weaker than your competitors. So things like prices, services, reputation, what are their strengths and their weaknesses? This is so important for you to understand in order to be able to grow your business. Things like branding, I mentioned value proposition. What is your proposition? You know, if you are only selling on price, for instance, then you are selling against people that are selling on price. And that means that whoever is selling it on the lowest price is going to win the work or the bid. And that doesn't put you in a very strong position. So we'll talk about ways of adding value to what you do. It's really important to make sure that people see value in how you do it, what you do. And then pricing, things like that will be a very important part of your plan. We'll talk about selling, and then other things that I wanted to the package underneath the startup basics. There's two things here. One is putting together a vision statement. It would be nice if you are thinking about a business, you could just sit down and jot some ideas. It doesn't look like this is printed properly. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So, the first thing on that page should say, the purpose of my business is. And then if you could, just go ahead and follow it up with some ideas, short. It doesn't have to be in any detail. The business will provide the following products and services. You know, again, keep it simple, keep it short. And this is the beginning, this is the germ of your business plan. And things that are important and the values of my business, you know, things that are important, my business will live by are. So what values do you want to bring to the table? What is your vision? And that's that one. I would ask that if you give a minute, just take it home, fill it out. It may be different, you know, from now than it is now, once you get that to that point. And let me go back to the other one. The other one I'd like you to take a look at is the readiness self-assessment. I gotta pull it up. That's posted on the line. And it had a printing issue as well, so let me just pull it up real quick. And then we'll be done.
I apologize for the printing issues. I promise to do better next time.
No worries.
Next time we use the
Doctor.
the library copied it. I still had to print it, so it's
Yeah.
still not printed wrong.
I saw one is, I know that my idea is serving an unmet need in solving an unserviced need. So think about that. You know, and it doesn't have to be something that's totally unmet service, but it's something that you might think that you have an answer to.
And it can be local.
And yeah, it could be, certainly could be look, you know, so this is, for instance, something that is geared toward an East Cleveland target market. You know, so Sean already talked about a grocery store. If you were putting together a grocery store, you know what the need is for a grocery store here. But think about that with any, whether it's in East Cleveland or it's throughout the US or the world, for that matter. And then the other one was, I think it was, I'm sure if you were still. I think those are all okay. You know, the other one is on the second page. It was this. If funding got the most points, okay, funding can sometimes be a dream killer for entrepreneurs. So you'll have a leg up on most aspiring business owners. This workshop will give you, so it's based on how you scored it. So I will try and remember to send out the PDF directly on this one. You can print it out yourself and take a look at it. Let me just go back to the end of this. So basically, back to the original draft. Our first question is start basics. We've kind of gone through a lot of that. The next one is going to be business concept. Bob Fiedler is going to be, and he's really going to talk about how to begin articulating what your business is, what the industry is, who your competitors are, where to find that research. And by the way, this library probably has a great deal of wonderful info available for you to do research on for your business. So
I think it'd be nice if, come to the next, if you have that couple of these forms filled out, particularly your vision.
yeah.
We'd like you to say what your business is here. Nobody's going to critique it. And if you have more than one, that's fine too. we often have people come with 2 or 3 ideas, and we'll help you sort through.
Okay.
But it'd be nice for you to contribute some thoughts, and then we, Bob and I, and John, you know, we will react to what businesses you're talking about.
Yeah.
Based on our experience.
Yeah, and it actually is good because if we know kind of what you're thinking about, we can adapt the session itself to what you say you want to do. You know, if you're working on a nonprofit and, you know, we can, as we go through what we're doing with research, we show you research nonprofits.
And I think Sean and Pat talked about their nonprofits a little bit. You know, just to give an example, so we can, go in a little bit.
All right.
So let's give the board a round of applause. So now, as I said, the next 4 sessions will still be focused on you know, this core business starting topics, right? But we will take a minute out to continue on with our project. Now, the group coming here at 3 o'clock, so I have to break for today. But not only do I want you to finish thinking about your businesses and filling out the documents that were provided as best you can, let's think about this project thing, because that's where we'll start next time, right? Before we get into the sports stuff, we'll start talking about our community project. And what we're going to do in that context first is the same thing that we're doing with the business plan. We need to develop what this project is going to be. And I'll tell you why. The same reason that the SCORE folks, the same reason as what the SCORE folks are talking about when starting the business. We want people to give us money. They don't have money unless we tell them how we intend to spend it. And they think it makes sense. All right? So that's where we're going to start. We're not going to jump into the water or the fire, whatever it may be. We're going to plan, right? And even if we fail, we'll have foundation for the next time, right? So that's what's going to happen. So I want to thank you all for taking the time. Let me ask you, did you get something out of this session today?
Yes. Todd, can you address what's on the screen, please?
All right. The next function was going to be on January 7th, but I was told that I'm not going to be in town that day.
By his wife, he will not be in town. Thank you.
So I'll find another. I didn't want to try to skip December, to be quite honest, because I thought that would interfere with you all's holidays. But if you think that you could tolerate one session in December, we will try to put it together. All right, so I will try to find availability. Now, our goal is to come here this year, right? So if the room's not available, that's also a factor, because we love being in this library, we love being in this, right? So if you found some value out of what we did today, please bring a friend next time. We know that you guys made the sacrifice to come here today. We appreciate it. I support. And, you know, we're going to continue to do this because we want to make this city prosper and we want the individuals in this city prosper. So with that, you all have a great rest of your Saturday.
Hold on, Sean. December is out for this, the availability of this space. December is done.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna look at the third Saturday.
Thursday, January.
Third Saturday in January.
Being the 21st.
Okay. We had the 14th, we got a chess tournament here that day, right? That's important too, right? So look out for the announcements. Got your phone numbers, and if you don't mind, I will send you all a text message announcing the next event. And all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, where she goes.
Well, my people were rich.
She had her more shirt. I got it. I'm gonna get the it's on the side,
This,
Okay, great. I like that.
Okay, my friend,
you're more than welcome. Bobby, and don't worry. I need you to get in and say it. But you look like Steve Cohen. No, that's my grandson. Still working. Your hair's so soft. I can take care. Some of my brother. Okay, hold on. It's so disrespectful.